A word on Chelsea. Obviously, we've covered them a lot. I suspect we will be discussing this further. Consensus, as I mentioned earlier, seems to be that Lampard is going to stick around. So we'll see which way that goes. But are you surprised about the names that they're being linked with? In particular, this massive insistence on Thomas Tuchel. I don't understand this. I don't get this.
Why don't you understand?
Because the guy was fired, right, 2.5 weeks ago.
Yeah.
From a different league. And I would argue at Paris Saint-Germain playing a football that worked for Paris Saint-Germain to some degree, although not that well because he got fired in the end. But that isn't the football that made him great. It was completely different from the way he played previously at Mainz at Borussia Dortmund. And now all of a sudden, he's being linked continuously. I wonder if this might have to do with the fact that in the last couple months, he's decided to get representation from a certain agent who talks to the media all the time.
Yeah, I think Pini Zahavi, not just talking to the media or his people, but also having very good links with Chelsea, it's only a big factor of why Thomas Tuchel is linked so heavily with the club. I think he's a really good coach. And I think he didn't work for many reasons in Paris, or half worked. And it's not a reason why he could not work at Chelsea with this squad.
But you wonder about surely if they were looking at Tuchel, it's not just my understanding, it might be something for the summer. It's not going to be something where after 6 weeks he says, let me get straight back into management.
No, and I think he would rather he would like it more to come in the summer than come now. So maybe you bring an interim coach between now and the summer, and then Tuchel or someone else who will have the whole preseason, the transfer window, everything he wants to build this squad and get them ready and everything. But okay, that's fine. It's no problem. It could be a good plan. But who do you get as an interim coach? Don't give me like the Shevchenkos and Avram Grant and those people, because may as well keep Lampard for that.
Here's the thing, right? And I wrote a piece about this, right? Chelsea have this, because we love our narratives, right? Chelsea have this idea that Abramovich is this mad, trigger-happy oligarch who just keeps firing and firing and firing, right? And it's true that he's had 13 managerial changes since he took over in 2003, which is as many, actually it's more than Arsenal, United, and Liverpool combined. However, Chelsea actually in recent years very rarely, even when they know they're going to make a change, very rarely change managers during a season. Yeah. They did it with Di Matteo, who was himself an interim coach. Obviously, Rafa Benitez was an interim coach. When they sacked Mourinho, they really had no choice. They were 1 point above the relegation zone. Even in cases with Sarri, where we knew he was going to go, and he might have been sacked, they still stuck around until the end of the season. And then
they won the Europa League.
They won the Europa League, and incidentally, he left to join Juventus. So technically,
but Conte was similar.
Conte, the same thing. Yeah. The wheels were coming off, and yet they stuck with it.
Yeah.
So this sort of, cliche of Abramovich, I think, is badly misplaced. But I want to chuck something out there on this about, we know all the argument, all the mitigating factors for Frank, right? With all the changes and the pandemic and the spending and the pressure and all this stuff. There's a school of thought that if they had spent, I want to get you on this because I think I've already asked Jules this because I'm getting old, I forget, but you can weigh into it if I haven't. There's a school of thought that says very simply and plainly, and I think this is one of the reasons why he's staying in his job, that going into the season, we said this on this very show, they're under strengths in terms of specialist defensive midfielders.
Yeah.
They have one guy, N'Golo Kanté, who actually doesn't even play in that holding midfield role. He normally goes around and hunts, and they have to put Jorginho there or Kovacic or whatever. That's something where they need to bring in a player in that position. And obviously, all summer long, they were linked with Declan Rice. Declan Rice, who, of course, Chelsea youth team guy. Eventually, Declan Rice never arrived, despite Harry Redknapp's best efforts on television on deadline day. And you can say the official reason was that, West Ham want 80 million, West Ham want 80 million. Very simple question. If we could see this, that the squad was unbalanced and they were better off with Declan Rice, could Lampard have said, hey, how about instead of spending the money on Kai Havertz, who I don't necessarily need, what if we spend that money on Declan Rice? I mean, would it be a different Chelsea right now? Would it be a better Chelsea? Would it be a more rational Chelsea if they go? I know we're talking with the benefit of hindsight. And is there a scenario where maybe that is what Frank Lampard wanted?
Well, it couldn't be a worse Chelsea, could it? Because if you take Kai Havertz out of that squad, does it diminish in any respect right now? No. So if Declan Rice had come in, it would have made them better. But the questions are, as always with Chelsea, how much does the manager have an input into who they sign and who they let go? And whether Lampard had the ability to change the recruitment enough, I don't know. I don't think he has that power. I don't think any Chelsea manager really had that power, even Mourinho at his peak. So Lampard has to work with what he has, and that for me is what it gets back to.
But Lampard, no doubt, I mean, we know this, Lampard would have lobbied for Declan Rice, right? Then they decided to go in a different direction. Maybe they thought that they could sell Barkley and Loftus-Cheek for a lot of money, and then they could raise, and maybe Jorginho too. Maybe they could raise the money for Rice that way. Maybe they could get Rice and Havertz at some point. But the point is, if Lampard was lobbying for Rice, right, put that out there, and there were other people saying, no, forget Rice, Havertz is more important, Abramovich can see what happened, right? Abramovich knows that they chose Havertz over Rice, and that the squad is also...
Did they really?
Maybe. Well, he knows he didn't sign Rice.
Yeah,
he knows that...
Okay, but maybe Rice was a case of like, okay, let's do a Van Dijk and wait until January, for example, or even wait until next summer.
Well, because you'll suddenly be cheaper in January?
No, well, it'd be closer to the end of his contract if you wait for a year and maybe be cheaper. And maybe Havertz was now or never. And maybe you thought, okay, we can wait a little bit for Rice. He's desperate to come. He will come in 6 months or in 12 months.
I don't know. I think... Go ahead.
It's always quite enticing to an owner or a CEO to sign the next big thing as well, isn't it? The next exciting attacking talent. It's always easy to be persuaded that if you sign this guy, it's going to be the most creative player you're going to have for the next 5 or 6 years.
I don't doubt any of that. The point is, some people within Chelsea did the persuading, whether it was Peter Cech, whether it was Scott McLaughlin, whether it was somebody else, right?
That's true.
Somebody eventually lobbied for Havertz ahead of Rice, even in terms of priorities. I guess maybe they could have signed both. I don't know, right? Yeah. Somebody did that. And I think that is in Abramovich's mind. Abramovich knows who wanted to do what. And I think that is part of the reason why there will continue to be faith in Lampard unless things really deteriorate or blow up. Well,
they've got three home games, 3 really winnable home games coming up this next week, haven't they? They've got Luton in the Cup, Burnley and Wolves. And if they don't win if any of those games don't end with a victory, then I think Lampard's got a problem. And I think that the desire is to stay with him until the end of the season if possible, but you can't keep losing games or dropping points. And they've got Tottenham away in 2 weeks' time. So can you imagine going to Tottenham, Mourinho, losing again, being mid-table? I don't think they can sustain Frank until the end of the season if this carries on.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN Plus.